drive me completely crazy. Women always.
The movie opens with Jennifer and Richard aboard a helicopter, journeying to Richard's secluded desert home. Jennifer, a socialite often seen as a gold digger, is entangled in a clandestine affair with Richard, a married man. They intend to relish some time together before Richard embarks on his yearly hunting excursion with his buddies. Upon arriving, Jennifer wastes no time and checks out the luxurious house. Meanwhile, Richard receives a peyote from his pilot. Moments later, the two are left alone, so Jennifer gets down to business and on her knees. Later that night, Richard calls his wife to check in on her. After the call, he goes back to bed with Jennifer. The next day, Richard's friends, Stanley and Dimitri, arrive ahead of schedule. They find Jennifer in the house and are amazed by her beautiful assets. The two men stare at her as if they've never seen a woman before. While frustrated because of their early arrival, Richard welcomes his two friends. Jennifer leaves the men and goes to the shower. It seems Richard wanted to keep Jennifer a secret, but the cat is now out of the bag. He decides to tell his friends that she will be leaving the next day and they'll proceed with their annual hunting trip. While the boys hang out by the pool that day, Jennifer decides to flaunt her assets and openly kiss Richard in front of his friends. Stanley and Dimitri can do nothing but look while their thirst for her develops. During a poolside party that evening, Stanley begins to openly flirt with Jennifer, despite Richard's presence. Concurrently, Dimitri, not to be outdone, resorts to binoculars to more closely appreciate Jennifer's appearance. Amidst this, Richard informs Stanley that his wife is attempting to reach him. However, engrossed with Jennifer, Stanley ignores his wife's calls, humorously contemplating divorce upon his return. When Richard rejoins the group, the conversation shifts to a discussion about the peyote placed on the table, describing it as a potent hallucinogen. Richard entrusts the peyote to Jennifer, who conceals it within her necklace before enlivening the atmosphere with music. Jennifer returns to the poolside and starts putting on a show for the thirsty boys. 6 out of 10 dance moves aren't smooth enough. She asks Richard to dance with her, but he refuses. Jennifer then settles to dance with Beta Stanley instead. While Stanley is having fun with Jennifer, Richard goes to the cock block and takes her away to their room. The next day, Jennifer learns that Richard is away for business and will be gone for some time. Stanley accompanies her while Dimitri is in the pool nursing his hangover. Stanley begins staring at Jennifer without hiding his thirst anymore. Sensing this, Jennifer excuses herself and says she'll start packing her things to leave. Jennifer is changing her clothes when she sees Stanley peeking behind her. She gets startled and puts on a shirt immediately. Stanley enters the room and starts talking with Jennifer. He gives his business card to Jennifer and tells her that they should spend time together someday. Jennifer makes up an excuse and Stanley asks her why she's not interested in him. While reluctant to answer, she tells him that he is too small a man for her tastes. Stanley is hurt and confused because he thinks Jennifer liked him because of her sensual dancing last night. Tired of being the beta, Stanley makes his move on Jennifer. She refuses his advances, so he puts her up the wall and prepares to breed her forcefully. Before Stanley can have his way with Jennifer, Dimitri enters the room and finds them. Jennifer looks at Dimitri with a face that pleads for help. Stanley tells Dimitri to leave if he doesn't want to join him. Choosing to disengage, Dimitri opts to swim in the pool, deliberately ignoring the dire situation unfolding inside. His demeanor is disturbingly indifferent, marked by an unsettling, stereotypical, white van driver appearance. Meanwhile, with Dimitri out of the picture, Stanley brutally assaults Jennifer. Upon Richard's return, Stanley unabashedly recounts his actions with Jennifer to him. He tells Jennifer that he'll fix things and immediately starts scolding Stanley. After that, Richard offers Jennifer money and a job to make her forget about what Stanley did. Jennifer refuses Richard's offer and tells him that she wants to go home. Richard refuses her request and makes excuses about the helicopter being unavailable. Jennifer then threatens him about revealing their relationship to his wife if he doesn't send her home. Furious about being threatened, Richard slaps Jennifer hard, realizing that she can't have her way. Jennifer runs into the desert. Richard and his friends chase her. After some time and a good amount of cardio, Jennifer finds herself cornered on a cliff. To calm Jennifer down, Richard asks for Stanley's phone and calls the helicopter for her. Unfortunately for Jennifer, Richard was only pretending to make the call. After she drops her guard down, Richard shows Jennifer that this is Sparta. Jennifer falls down the cliff and gets impaled by a tree. Stanley and Dimitri panic after seeing what Richard has done. Richard then explains that they will be imprisoned for 15 years if Jennifer goes to the police about what happened. Later that night, Richard burns all of Jennifer's stuff to cover his tracks. As it turns out, Jennifer is still alive. Falling from a cliff and getting impaled is not enough to kill her. Even with significant blood loss, Jennifer miraculously survives and musters the strength to extricate herself from the object impaling her. Upon regaining consciousness, she sets the very tree that impaled her ablaze. Although she frees herself, a fragment of the tree remains embedded within her. Amidst her struggle, she hears the sound of approaching vehicles, signaling the arrival of Richard and his friends. Jennifer then starts crawling to hide beneath the rocks nearby. After learning that Jennifer is still alive, Richard and his friends decide to hunt her down. They find traces of her blood and follow the trail she created. Jesus, how can somebody be alive after losing that much blood? Later, the three musketeers find Jennifer's tracks ending near a river and realize they've lost their prey. Richard and Dimitri look for Jennifer in separate directions while Beta Stanley stays behind, reasoning that she might come back. Meanwhile, Jennifer wanders near the riverbank and encounters Dimitri pissing nearby. Seeing the opportunity, she grabs his weapon and tries shooting him. Unfortunately, the shotgun isn't loaded and Dimitri quickly subdues her. Dimitri then informs his friends that he has found Jennifer. Stanley celebrates after hearing the news. Dimitri then starts drowning Jennifer in the river. In a chilling revelation, he confesses his preference for appearing harmless to lure his prey before striking. This sinister strategy aligns with the unsettling white van driver stereotype. Amidst Dimitri's monologue detailing his malevolent intentions, Jennifer seizes the moment to grab his knife and stabs him in the eyes, leading to his demise in the river. Subsequently, Jennifer takes all his supplies and escapes in an ADV. When the vehicle eventually runs out of fuel, she finds refuge in a nearby cave, where she recuperates. In the solitude of the cave, Jennifer recalls the peyote concealed in her necklace and uses it to alleviate her pain and discomfort. The peyote quickly takes effect, and she starts to hallucinate. Sometime later, she comes to her senses and gets ready to perform surgery on herself. Jennifer goes full Rambo mode to remove the branch stuck inside her. After removing it, she heats a beer can and uses it to cauterize the wound. In the morning, Richard meets up with Stanley by the riverbank and startles him with a dead animal. While Stanley cleans himself by the river, Dimitri's dead body appears in front of him. After recovering from the shock of finding their dead friend, the two dispose of the body and resume their search for Jennifer. Jennifer experiences a series of nightmares because of the peyote. After regaining control of her mind, she checks on her wounds. Jennifer finds the Phoenix logo on the Mexican beer can permanently branded on her skin. Reborn with pro hunter skills, she gears up and goes hunting for her prey. She finds Stanley and starts trailing him. Sometime later, Stanley's SUV runs out of gas and he stops to refuel it. Jennifer gets into position and shoots Stanley in the shoulder. The recoil knocks her down, and when she gets up, she realizes Stanley is gone. Jennifer approaches the SUV and finds Stanley running away. She follows the trail of blood he leaves behind, but eventually loses track of him. Stanley conceals himself, lying in wait to ambush Jennifer. As she comes into his line of sight, he takes a shot, hindered by an injury to his elbow. His aim is off, and he ends up hitting her lub. Despite the pain and loss of her lub, Jennifer quickly rises to her feet and dashes away from Stanley, determined to escape. While running away, she breaks her flashlight to leave some broken glass on the road. Moments later, Stanley steps on them while chasing Jennifer and falls to the ground, wailing in pain. Stanley manages to remove the broken glass from inside his foot by sheer willpower. Stanley returns to his SUV, but his injury complicates his efforts to start the vehicle. Despite the intense pain, he exhibits remarkable resilience and finally gets the SUV operational, immediately setting off in pursuit of Jennifer. Soon after, he catches sight of her and, with a surge of determination, presses the gas pedal to accelerate, aiming to run her over. In a bold move, Jennifer chooses to confront Stanley directly, dismissing the strategic advantage of higher ground as a novice tactic. Jennifer fires multiple shots at the incoming vehicle and lands one that kills Stanley. She then expertly and smoothly dodges the SUV rushing at her. After the kill, Jennifer gets on the SUV and hears Richard trying to contact Stanley. She ignores the call and drives away with the SUV to her next target. Meanwhile, Richard is frustrated because he gets no response from Stanley. Richard decides to go back home and calls the helicopter to pick him up. He now wants to bail out and leave all the mess behind. Since it will take 30 minutes to arrive, Richard hits the showers to clean up. He then hears a noise outside and decides to investigate. After going around the entire house, Richard finds the pool cleaner and assumes it was the one that made the noise. He drops his guard and shortly after that Jennifer shows up with a gun pointed at him. Richard tries to react, but gets shot in the stomach. He crawls on the floor and tries to run away from the gunfire. Jennifer notices that Richard ran away, so she goes after him to finish the job. The two begin to circle around each other, leaving a bloody mess all over the place. Eventually, Richard decides to ambush Jennifer, but she sees right through it. Richard realizes this, so he covers his wound with plastic wrap. The chase between the two escalates until Richard finally overtakes Jennifer. With a swift blow from the back of his shotgun, he knocks her down. Then, in a dramatic turn, he lifts her from the ground and begins to strangle her, all while delivering a typical villainous monologue. In a display of resilience, Jennifer counters by forcefully pressing her fingers into Richard's exposed wound, a move born of desperation and survival instinct. The pain forces him to drop Jennifer and fall to the ground in pain. She then reaches for her shotgun, and when Richard gets up to take it away from her, she shoots him in the chest. Richard falls to the ground and dies. Jennifer gets up and makes her way out of the bloody house. Moments later, she stands at the edge of the pool and stares at the desert. Jennifer finally completed her revenge. She hears the sound of the helicopter, and as she turns around, the movie ends. Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.